Hi everybody, welcome to Gig. I'm your host, Mike Redman. Today I have a great conversation with close friend and composer, Greg Sims. We're talking about the importance of taking chances to move your career forward and what we've learned from our own experiences. Greg has taught me so many valuable lessons. One example is that there's no such thing as multitasking. Both Greg and myself took lots of chances in our career, chances that could have been disastrous. But looking back, we were smart enough, and most importantly, we had confidence in ourselves. So it's time to face your fears and just say yes. Let's jump right in. Hey Greg, how are you?
Hey Michael, doing fine. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. It's really nice to talk to you again since you moved back from LA. Today, since you and I know each other so well, and we've known each other for years, and we were writing partners and all of these different things, I thought we could talk about something a little different. And that's like, because both of us started out as, like every other musician, not knowing where we're going or how to get there. We maybe wanted to be a rock star, but we had no idea. And our paths took us in these crazy directions and often led by just saying yes. Facing the fear, which I did nervously. I did it a lot. And somehow, through the fear, pulling off things that we had no idea how we were going to get them done. So, yeah.
I remember when I was working for you, let me mute this. I remember thinking, gosh, I'm glad I'm not having to do what he's doing.
What do you mean?
Having to take the risk and the tough calls and selling the company and watching the bills come in and that kind of thing. But
yeah, there was definitely that. I mean, in the iterations of the things that I started up, I was always afraid and always felt like I didn't know what I was doing. After a while, I was more comfortable with it, but probably because I had people like you surrounding me.
Well, I think you got to have a team, right? But it's funny. I remember Jerry Goldsmith, the great composer.
Yeah.
I saw someone asked him one time, so what's the first thing you do when you get a job and you sign the contract or whatever? He says, I lay in the fetal position under my grand piano. So he was afraid. He was always afraid. But look at him. He's like produced some of the greatest music in film history.
I think that Jerry Goldsmith, for people that don't know, at one time he was producing all of the music for 13 TV series at one time, and he had a team of people. Kind of a little bit like Hans Zimmer does now.
Right. Wow.
So I also want to mention this. You said I'd written to you about doing this, and I said something about being my mentor, and you said, no, I think you were my mentor. And I was like, I think maybe we were both, each other's mentors because we had things to learn from each other.
Yeah, we had different strengths. Yeah, that's true.
I mean, you were classically trained and you knew everything about classical music, and I could listen to classical music and emulate it poorly, but I had no idea what I was doing, and I couldn't even read what I was doing. So here's one story I want to start with, and this is how I met you, and it illustrates very, I was going to say articulately, but I can't speak. So it illustrates what we're talking about by saying, just say yes.
Okay.
I was doing very well in Orlando, writing music for Disney and Universal, a lot of it, and ad agencies and things like that. And I was asked one day to do this live show. And the live show was what I affectionately called the Dead Celebrity Christmas Special, because it was at Marilyn Monroe and all these, dead celebrities that were basically the performers. And it had to be in the style of Ricky Ricardo's orchestra from I Love Lucy show. Well, I just said yes. And I had no idea what I was going to do because I didn't know anything about world music, Latin music, the orchestration of any of that. And we were taking very popular, Christmas songs, and it was not really a neat show. Well, first thing I did is I reached out to another friend of ours, Chuck Archer, because Chuck Archer was known, at least at the time, as Mr. World Music, right?
Yeah, right.
And he, in turn, reached out to his partner writing, which was Greg Sims. And Greg Sims was the other half of World Music. And when we met, and I automatically felt comfortable. All I could do at that point was produce it, which I know how to do. So I produced the music. You guys basically wrote anything that needed to be written, and you arranged all the music and co-produced all the recordings, etc. It was a huge success. And still to this day, I think I can find some of it to put into this podcast. But it was still one of my favorite projects ever. But I was kind of, I don't want to say terrified, because at that time I was fairly confident in what I was doing. But it was one of those cases where I knew deep down inside that I could get this thing done.
Yeah, no, that's good.
So how about you? Because when Chuck came to you with this project, what did you think about it?
Well, I was all jazzed about it, because any chance to arrange, or, and I was doing more arranging then, I think, as far as composing goes. I didn't consider myself a composer till, I don't know when that was, later. But yeah, I thought it was, and I can't remember if Chuck and I had already done this World Time Music combo thing that Hal Leonard put out. I don't remember if we'd done that yet. Maybe that's when we started working. I don't remember the timeline. Yeah. But I was with having him on board, I was very confident. At that time, if somebody's, producing all different styles, I fancied myself as being able to do all, most of them, but not authentic, Latin music. But Chuck is really, and I learned a lot from him over the years, and it's really paid off down the line doing film scores. Being able to draw on what I've learned, from working with him. So I got a couple of stories about. One, I was asked by a director to do music for a short film, and it was. And I didn't know him. But of course, I said, yes, of course I'll do this. I didn't even ask what it was about, whatever. And then he said, oh, by the way, it's an LGBTQ film. I said, well, that's fine. That's fine with me. Yep. And he said, oh, and by the way, I want an EDM score. Is that cool? So do you think EDM when you think of Greg Sims? No. So I said, oh yeah, sure, no problem. So what, but in this day and age, back when we were working, it could be a problem. Yeah. But now you just go online, I just listened to as much EDM as I could. I mean, I was sort of familiar with it, but you don't want to get full of yourself and have people blast you online. And that film's got over 2 million views on YouTube. Really? And,
wow.
And I don't think anybody slammed the music, so I think that was a good thing to say yes to. But that was.
Now, did that particular job lead to any other jobs with that person or people you met?
Unfortunately, no. He didn't. He didn't. That happens. I've got several dead end jobs that I've done, because usually you like to think one leads to another, but
yeah. So you said you had another story too. That's kind of the same. Down the same.
Oh, this is weird. I think I can talk about it because it never happened. But another friend of mine who does music videos, and he was going to do a music video for Selena Gomez, and at least that's what he told me. That I don't know if he'd signed contracts yet or not, but he did. I did see a picture with they're hugging each other, but he said he hated the song production. It was in Hollywood Records, right? Huge song, huge hit, I'm sure. And so he had Hollywood Records send me her vocals, and I recreated the whole thing from scratch.
Wow!
I spent about 3 days on it, and it was trance. Another thing in which I, don't know much about, and another thing that you could play for someone, and they'd go, what is this? This is not trance. So anyway, that was fun. It turned out great. They didn't end up doing the videos. Probably, maybe that was good. But I learned that, hey, I can do. And in fact, he liked it so much. He said, we got to do a whole album of trance music. It'll sell millions of copies. So that's when you say no.
That's right. Yeah, that's when you say, we have a budget here? Yeah.
Yeah. Say no when there's no budget sometimes, maybe.
Let's talk about your move from Nashville to LA. And just a couple of questions. You can abbreviate the whole story, but you made that move. You can talk about that. And then when you were there meeting people, networking, this idea of saying yes to anything and just looking for any opportunity that's possible, and maybe the feelings that are associated with all of that.
Oh, very uncomfortable. That's for sure. We had no connections, no relatives, no leads, which was kind of maybe I should have tried to establish some, but we just decided we're going to go for it, and Annie was all for it, and we did it. So just, but what happened is it reminds me of this quote by Michael Bernard Beckwith. He's like a big author, motivational author and stuff. He says, "Pain pushes until the vision pulls."
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, that really applied to me. It became the thought of not trying became more painful than going out. The thought of going out there and completely falling on my face and having to come whimpering back.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. Yep, that makes a lot of sense.
You've been through that kind of decision making too. But we loved it. We loved the area, which I was surprised. I felt very ignorant about. I didn't know much about it. I think I'd even been out there with you, for some meetings and stuff, but we didn't, have time to really look. Sure. I didn't even bother looking around. But it's a beautiful area. It's a challenge with getting around, but we liked it right away. It was just, but you think about there's tons of work out there, but everybody that's working already has their people that they work with. So breaking in as a composer, particularly because there's only one composer for every film, it was a big challenge. The biggest challenge was how are we going to pay the bills this month, and what have I got? What networking event can I go to? Who can I meet, and all that kind of thing. So it was uncomfortable a lot of the time, but it felt good doing it, and I think I proved to myself that I was good enough to do it. Yeah, because I did get work and got good feedback from people in the industry and got to work with some really good people. So it was successful.
So what led you to deciding after several years to move back to Knoxville, Tennessee?
Well, there's sort of a bunch of events out of my control happened, right? The COVID happened.
Oh, yeah.
And that just, shut everything down for an entire year at least. And the industry shut down for 2 years, really. And then just when that was starting to come back, the strike, the writer strike, and the actor strike, we had already. That was like when we were moving. So, and what happened? I think COVID also introduced the world to like this Zoom, right? And I never went in person to meetings. All my board meetings were this way anyway because it's much easier to do this than drive. So this had become the way of meeting and talking to clients. So I thought, well, I'll just tiptoe away. And Annie was really dying to go back. I mean, she just loves this area too. And her mom is here, elderly. My dad, so it made a lot of sense. So that was the main reason, just life balance, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's great. It's a wonderful thing to have that option. Yeah. You know what? If you weren't with Annie, and Annie is a wonderful performer and singer in her own right, and you guys kind of understand the sensitivities of being in this business to begin with, right? So it's easier to deal with the emotional roller coaster. I got a few things that are like a little bit squirrely. Actually, I'll deal with the one that's kind of squirrely. Many years ago, when you and I were working together, this has stuck with me my whole career. Something I think about almost daily anyway, is talking about being mentoring and learning things. I was always running 100 miles an hour, doing 100 different things.
Mm-hmm.
And I was always amazed. You and I would get a project,
Mm-hmm.
and you would just go home and you would just work on it. And you would work several days in a row. And that's what you did, that one thing. And I used to think to myself, that is like so unproductive, man. You can't get a lot done. I mean, I'm going here, I'm going that, I'm going over here. And then one day you and I were talking about it, and you just said, Mike, there's no such thing as multitasking. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I'd probably read an article about it, because Annie's always claiming that she can multitask. But then she forgets where she lays her glasses down, and she can't find anything because she's multitasking.
Well, you explained it to me in such a way that made a lot of sense, and it did really help me tremendously. And it was that, you may be doing 10 things. I may be working on something for 5 hours, and you're working on 10 things in 5 hours. But those 10 things that you work on, you're not completing any of them. And between each one, you have to stop and refocus again. Mm-hmm. So your level, your depth of concentration never gets to the level that I'm working at.
Right.
And
I did, you can research it, and some research says it takes 25 minutes to get back into where you were. And you think about it, film composing is such an immersive.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm basically walking around, other people do too, like a zombie 24/7. Forget when you're just sitting in front of the computer.
That's
always
right,
thinking about it. So if you stop that train of thought and that getting into zone or whatever, it takes me, if I had to take a day off, it would take me another day just to get back to where I was. What were the little motifs? What was I doing? What was I writing? So I definitely applies to composing, I think. Yeah.
I'm writing a novel now and having so much fun with it.
Oh, wow.
But what I have found is, like I've been waking up, at 4:30 in the morning and coming and writing. It's great because I get into it for a couple hours, just deep. But if I just stop for a little while, for 30 minutes, and I spend half of my time trying to find out where I was.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I have a funny story. This is kind of a revealing one about me. I haven't told a lot of people, but you know this. I was pretty successful writing music for a career. Mm-hmm. And then I started that film post-production company, Bright House, turned into Red House. And when I did that, I basically put down my composer hat and took up the owner-manager hat of this facility and had 30 employees. And it was a pretty big deal there for a while. Mm-hmm. Well, I had one client who that I did all of her music. And she calls me one day and she says, Mike, I've got this project and it needs to hit the air tomorrow morning. I'm sorry for the short notice. Can you write something for it? And I was like, of course I can, because I'd already written probably 500 or 600 things for this producer. And so I did. And I sent it to her. And the next several hours later, I guess, I get a call and she was very... we were good friends, but she was very kind in the way she put it. She goes, Mike, you know what? This sounds kind of dated, and it doesn't sound like you spent an hour on it, And I was like, shit, I've been caught, right? I've been caught. Because I was so comfortable writing all of that music for Disney that I thought I could just knock it out, right? And she got it. And the reason was, because I had thought about this for years afterwards, the reason was because typically for like maybe one of these national 30-second Disney spots, I would sit down like you're talking about as a composer, and I would work as deep as I could for 12, 14 hours on this piece.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this piece, because I was running this new company, I didn't have the time to do that. So I pulled out an older piece and I revamped it a little bit. Mm-hmm. Yeah. and it wasn't that I hadn't spent an hour. I spent 45 minutes. And it was quite apparent to somebody that's not even trained, right? Right? So I was caught. Anyway, that's a lesson to all of you listening. Yeah. Be careful with your shortcuts because you can get caught real easy. You know what? You've done everything, kind of, films and TV advertising and short films and conducted. You've arranged. If you had to pick a certain piece of all of that, what's kind of your favorite, the one you really, really get into?
Well, I'm trying to think I guess, well, when some of it is pre prepping, I did this, Indian film,
Right.
it's Marathi language. I think I told you about that.
Yep.
And so I spent 2 weeks just researching ragas and Indian music because I didn't want to be a laughing stock in India. It's like, what the heck is this? But and then there's the actual sitting down and syncing the movie. I think watching the movie with no music. I'm the only the first person to do that. Was, after the of course the filmmakers.
Sure.
And creating, pulling stuff out of thin air and coming up with themes or whatever, if we're allowed to have themes. That's kind of becoming a thing now. But I'm going to stick with that.
Okay.
Doing theme. So I think, and just creating emotional impact that's necessary for the film, and then that's probably my favorite, the actual sort of sketching out.
Yeah. Okay.
Sketching it out. So I'll do a little sketch in Sibelius while I'm doing them, and sort of do it on paper while I'm watching it. That's probably my favorite part. And then, of course, the rest of it, you spend more time than that.
Sure.
Syncing it to hit points. Well, actually, I enjoy that part too. And then there's if it's not going to be an orchestra at the end of the day, which often isn't, all the tweaking, and then all of that stuff. But
you're not getting the stuff that you really don't get paid for.
Right. Yeah.
We're not hiring an orchestra. Yeah. We're not.
If it is an orchestra going to be involved, which I still am doing that even since I moved.
Why is it that so many composers choose to record in Prague?
Oh, and like Prague in particular?
Or just it could be overseas, but.
Well, I think the main reason I recorded several things there because I developed a relationship with the fixer, and the head engineer is fantastic there. He's I think he won his 8th Grammy.
Wow.
Last year. But there's several reasons. One is because it's always about budget. I mean, even now in the big pictures, how cheap can you do it?
Yeah.
And so that automatically, if budget's a consideration, then you want to buy out orchestra because the filmmakers don't want all these strings attached because they're not set up for that system of residuals and things. So that's a big deal. They've been recording soundtracks there for 30, 40, 50 years, so they do it day in, day out. And it's going to be good. I mean, maybe it's not going to be LA best #1 orchestra or Abbey Road, but it's excellent. So I think that's it. And if the budget allows you and time allows you to go, there's no better city to visit.
Yeah, I want to go so bad. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's a lot of. Now I know composers I know Hans Zimmer's head orchestrator really well, and he in fact he moved to Nashville right after I moved, but he did not have a good experience there. Well he's used to sitting in front of the best players in the world, the
London
best facilities in the
Philharmonic,
world. So to him, it was not a good experience. But for most of us, it's good. I think that's the main reasons I think composers record there, and you can do it remotely now. I haven't been to Prague in a while. I'd rather fly over there and do it, but
I think it's worth doing. You have to be there.
If you the little things I've done are shorter things, but it's a full film score. You really want to be there. So that's true.
Yeah.
But
wow, that's cool. So Greg, I'm going to make this short because we're going to do it again.
Okay.
This is good. This is good information for everybody. I think next time we're going to talk. We're going to have an episode, you and I, about AI and music. And
I'm going to have to research that. I'm denying it. I'm in denial right now. So
anyway, it's wonderful to see you, and we'll see you in person in a few weeks.
Sounds good, Mike. Thank you.
Amen. Hey, give Annie a hug for me.
Will do.
Okay. See you later.